Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Wellness Blueprints. I'm Jess Milner. I'm so glad you're here to nourish your roots with me. I'm a functional bloodwork specialist, master nutritionist, quantum energy healer, and I think I say that in a different order every time I say it. But okay, so here we are. It's Thanksgiving week. We are in our last week of November. Happy Thanksgiving to you. Gobble, gobble. And I said last week that I'm probably just going to come on and do a little thing on gratitude. And yeah, gratitude, it's a very common theme this time of year because Thanksgiving, we're supposed to be thankful. We're supposed to go around the table and think about the things that we're thankful for and remember, basically count your blessings, right? So there's people out there that are like, well, I count my blessings every day. And they say the same thing on Valentine's Day. Well, I love my partner every day. But, some people like to have like a little extra. And honestly, it's a really big family day for Thanksgiving. So much for Valentine's Day. But for Thanksgiving, it's a big family day. I know I've got my mother-in-law here. I just had to brine my turkey, which has been out of the freezer since last Thursday, and it is still not completely thawed out. But I got him brined, and he'll be good to go for Thursday. So I wanted to talk a little about gratitude, but not in like the same way that it's always discussed in. And that's because, I am grateful. I'm grateful for the chaos. And, there's chaos in almost everything. There's been chaos going on in the world. Like there's been people saying, kind of like Chicken Little with the sky is falling, the end is nigh since the beginning of forever, right? There's always been people that, are like very, very rooted in their fear there. Something crazy is going on, but there's chaos at so many different times of our lives. And it can be because many things are going on at once. It can be because it's a holiday. It can just be things jumbled up inside your brain. It can be things that you're just watching happen out there, it can be, literally any topic. Pick any topic that people might have talked about and had separate opinions on in the last however many hundreds of years. And, when there's chaos and you start to see how much arguing there is, how much negativity, how much chaos is there, it starts to make you see it but you can see both sides of it. So you're not sitting there participating in the chaos. You're sitting there looking at it going, did I used to participate in that? Why the hell is this going on? And so it's not, like now those of us who have like ADHD and stuff, when we have chaos, like we work better under chaotic circumstances sometimes, so when like things are, like we procrastinate and this and that, and you work really well under the pressure. I have written papers, long papers, doing things like that. And most of them I'm like, I'm not going to do it this time. And then you do it anyway. But that's not really what I'm talking about here. Not necessarily the chaos of, getting everything together for the holiday, which can be a big thing. Cause like, I got to go out and pick up the pie today. I got to run, I already did all of my shopping, but inevitably I forgot a few things. So, like there's like little things that you got to do. But this chaos helps us to look and see what we don't want to be or what we don't want to be anymore or how we want to change. There's always a transformation that needs to happen. And a lot of people that come to work with me, and they want to go through this change. They want to improve their health. They want to improve their emotional maturity. They want to, they just, there's so many aspects of their lives that they're like, I want to be able to get rid of these emotions. I want to figure out what kind of energetic gunk is really just getting in the way of things. I want to figure out what is going on. Help me find this root cause. Let's tackle this from a root, from a cellular level, and and tackle this and everything. And what they're asking for, what everybody's asking for, and what I ask for, what everybody's, you're asking for a transformation. And there's so many different transformations that we go through, in our lives. And the thing is, we kind of think of it and we're like, well, I'm going to start to feel better, or I'm going to start to do that, and you kind of think, well, it might be like the most like happy, sunshine and flowers thing. And that's usually not the case. I'm not saying that healing has to hurt, because we don't want that. We don't want Herx reactions. We don't want, we don't want you to have more emotional problems before you get better with them, But there's a transformation that has to happen. So something has to change inside of you. Something has, and before something changes inside of you, you have to notice the things outside of you and change. You're not going to change the things happening outside of you because we don't have control over those things, but you're going to change the way you think about those things that are outside of you. And then that's going to turn around and have an internal transformation. And sometimes that can be chaotic because you're starting to notice the other side of an argument. You're starting to notice that, like, well, I feel this way, but that person feels that way. And you know what? Like, even though I disagree, they're allowed to feel that way. They're allowed to think that. And it really doesn't have that much to do with you. And, even if you think that, no, I have to convince everybody, but what are you doing to yourself when you're doing that? You're not causing transfer, because the thing is, we're not going to transform anything outside of ourselves if we don't first focus on ourselves and how we're delivering things. I mean, you might have the best information in the entire world, but if everybody thinks that you're just screaming at them all the time, it's not going to be very well received. And you didn't mean to scream at them. You didn't mean to come off that way. But that's what starts to go on is, people are kind of like, why is she being crazy? So when you can kind of look at things and you look at all this chaos, or you look at the chaos of like getting your holiday together and everything, and you can look at it and go, all right, well, I need to change the way that I'm thinking about this. Or even like, you just kind of look at it and go, like there's another way to think about this. Just acknowledge that there's another way to think about this. And it's probably not going to be as bad as you think that it is. Like whatever kind of holiday emergency one might have in terms of getting, the food on the table and things like that, or getting to where you're going. Maybe you're traveling, it's a huge travel day, maybe you don't have to cook this year. Hooray, but there are still obstacles. There can still be chaos. My goodness, if you're going to a big family thing, there most likely are lots of different opinions on lots of different things. And, everybody's kind of like, ooh, you don't want to talk about certain things. And that's okay. You don't have to talk about certain things. But if you can just change the way that you are perceiving how other people are perceiving something, it's just like look at it and go, oh, well, that's their point of view. You don't have to agree with them. But doing that, you're going to start to transform inside of you. And that chaos is going to turn into something much more beautiful, because it's going to get you to a place where you're depending on yourself and you are comfortable with the power you have inside of you, so that your transformation is only yours. And sometimes it can be like, oh my gosh, I feel like people are kind of thinking I'm a little weird because I'm not talking the way that I used to, or you still have your opinions, but you won't necessarily like insist that everybody else needs to have the same ones. This chaos, that we're seeing, I mean, there's so much chaos out there, guys. And I don't want to get into like specifics, but like you all know what I'm talking about. I mean, I could say it's political. I could say it's religious. It's a whole bunch of shit. And I don't care where you fall on any of that spectrum, but give yourself a chance to just kind of look out there and be like, well, I could think about this a little bit differently. You don't have to change your mind, but just think about it a little bit differently, because you know what? That's going to allow you to let go of the control you think you have over somebody else. And then your nervous system's going to calm the hell down. Your healing's going to do better. Your transformation is going to come. And, I mean, we talk about sometimes, like, oh, when you're doing shadow work, or, oh, when you're doing all this kind of work that, you come crawling out of it, and, it's not necessarily a painful thing. It can just be a beautiful awareness. Or it could be something that you're kind of crawling out of. I kind of go back and forth. To be quite honest with you, some days you're going to feel like you're crawling out of it, and other days it's going to be a beautiful thing. But, they talk about how, you need to destroy something before it transforms. We talk about this with like weightlifting and stuff like that. I mean, what we're doing, we're going in there and we're like destroying what our muscles are already doing so that they can transform into something else. You get muscle soreness. There are things that happen because of this. You want to make sure you're doing it the right way. You have the right teachers and, making sure that you're doing things correctly so you don't hurt yourself. But, what you're doing with your muscles there, you're destroying them in a way. You are changing them forcibly. Now, when another example is like when you have a seed I've seen this a lot. You get the seed, it gets planted, you feel like you're in the dark, but then the seed starts to transform, starts to break through and become something else. We do this so many times in our lives. And it's not necessarily always like, this big dramatic thing, right? Sometimes it is and sometimes it isn't. But that transformation usually takes place because there's chaos happening. If you were that little seed inside and you're sitting there going, what is happening? I'm in this darkness. Now things are happening. Something's eating away at me and something's growing up, and now I got to reach for the sun. Something's happening there that is rather chaotic, but in the end, it's a beautiful thing there. So the chaos can really not only just help us, because we're going to go through it anyway, but it can help us see maybe things are, like when we look at things differently, maybe everything isn't as bad as we think that it is, and we can handle it better. It's just going to get you a little bit further in that transformation so that you can have a happier nervous system, because that is really what it is about. We want your energetic body, your morphogenetic field, we want that to be super healthy so that so that your physical body can mirror that. Uh, so we want to do everything that we can for that, but your nervous system, your autonomic nervous, everything they're connected to those things. Your nervous system is connected to it. All your energy centers are connected to it. Your blood work aligns with it. Any genetic work will align with it. It is just, you look at all these labs, you look at all this stuff, and it's all aligning in there. And when we can focus on, we want to turn our focus back inside on us, because you can have whatever kinds of feelings, whatever kind of opinions, whatever kind of views that you want to, but the calm inside your nervous system, when you are okay with the chaos going on outside of there, because you don't have to let it affect you, that is so beautiful. You don't want to be like my grandfather, who like literally would get angry and rage red just watching the news. Like, pop, what you doing? You probably know somebody who does something like that, and that's not good for your nervous system. And if you know somebody who does something like that, what is their health like? What was their health like? What was their life like? What is their life like? What? Just kind of look at the picture around it and just take a moment. You're just looking at that. That's all. But this transformation for that stuff is super fun, and you got to have the chaos to get it. So I am grateful for the chaos in my life, because if I didn't have chaos in my life in some manner, we wouldn't change. Like, I wouldn't change. Things wouldn't happen that, things wouldn't happen that would cause you to want to make a decision, to take a step, to do something else, or to look into something, possibly change your mind on something, look at something else. There's a lot of stuff going on people disagree with. Take a look at the other side. Read about it. Even if you don't, it doesn't matter if you agree with it or not. It doesn't matter. You also don't need to write a rebuttal. It can just be. But the chaos will help you to transform. It'll help you so that you can calm down your nervous system. So there you go. Be grateful for the chaos, because in the end, you can use that chaos to help your nervous system calm the hell down. So that's my little message for you today. Let's see, what can I offer you for a freebie? Let's do my Quantum Path to Wellness. Please go to go.deeprootedwellnessid.com/quantum-path. That is my free gift to you, my Quantum Path to Wellness. And have a wonderful Thanksgiving, everyone. Gobble, gobble. Enjoy your Black Friday. And here we go, right on into the holiday season. I am super excited to be in the holiday season. I hope that you are too. I am absolutely very grateful for each and every one of my listeners. Thank you so much for tuning in and listening and sharing with your friends and leaving me great reviews. I absolutely appreciate every single one of you. So super grateful for all of you, and may the chaos transform you. Bye for now.